And House Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Michael McCaul joins me now. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Martha.
Congressman, you slammed the administration for withholding some weapons, and you slammed the State Department reports. Do you see any evidence that it is reasonable to assess, as the State Department found, that there are instances in the use of those weapons, those big bombs especially, that are inconsistent with international law?
There's a lot of confusion about what's happening on the ground. I can tell you the weapons we approved. I sign off on all foreign military sales, myself, the ranking member, and chair and ranking member in the Senate. So that's 4 in the Congress. We also passed an appropriations package. What we're worried about is a sort of defiance of congressional intent here, that we passed these weapons out of Congress, and now the president's holding them back. I would say most of these weapons, to answer your question, are precision-guided weapons, and that means precise. And that means that it spares civilian casualties because the targeting is so precise. As you know,
Congressman, we're talking about 2,000-pound bombs here. The U.S. rarely uses 2,000-pound bombs. The radius can be 1,000 feet. If you look at the casualties there, if you look at the craters, if you look at the investigations, those 2,000-pound bombs cause civilian casualties. Again, the U.S. rarely uses them in especially population centers. You have no problem with them doing that?
The precision-guided weapons, I think the problem, Martha, is that
you keep saying precision-guided, and that may be a term, but again, the blast radius is enormous.
Well, the problem is Hamas embeds itself with its own people, and they put themselves as human shields up to attack. And they are the ones blocking a lot of this aid that they're trying to get in. They destroyed Erez. They destroyed the checkpoint going from Israel into the Gaza, into Rafah itself. And it's really hard to contend with an enemy like that. I'll give you a kill-to-ratio number.
Let me just say that. You say human shields. Without question, they are doing that. And Senator Coons said the same thing. They're being used as human shields. They're in these tunnels. But would you be comfortable if U.S. troops were in Gaza, say, and doing the same thing with that enormous amount of casualties, the destruction of that? We didn't use 2,000-pound bombs in Mosul when we were going after ISIS. We didn't destroy Kabul. We didn't destroy Kandahar. So would you be comfortable if this was a U.S. operation, U.S. military?
Well, I think a good comparison is what happened in Iraq, in Mosul and Fallujah, where the kill ratio between ISIS-K and civilian was 1 ISIS-K to 5 civilian. And in this case, it's 2 civilian to 1 Hamas. So it's actually the civilian casualties.
Where are those from? Those
that's what we've gathered. Those are the facts and figures that we have. That's actually lower than what America did in Iraq.
Again, people that I've talked to who were in Iraq, who were in Afghanistan, members of the military say we would not do a war like this. And if there were mistakes made, they would admit it.
Look, I know our CENTCOM commanders are working with them. Here's what I object to, Martha, is to say just point blank that we are not going to give weapons to Israel if they invade Rafah. Now, of course, you want the conditions with humanitarian to be in place. Of course, you want the tents in place. But to say you cannot invade Rafah, we're telling the Israelis, dictating their military strategy. This is the last point, the last step in the completion of their military objective. And for us to step in and say, no, you can't go into Rafah and finish the job, I think it's tantamount to an arms embargo. It's also very similar for us to say in World War II, hey, like my dad's generation, you can invade all the way up to Berlin, but you can't go into Berlin to finish the job. And Chris Coons is right. Until we do that, we will never have the resolution, the peace resolution that I think everybody wants.
Do you think what President Biden has done, pausing those weapons, would really make a difference? The Israelis basically say they have everything they need right now, even for a full-scale assault. So why does this pause really matter in terms of Rafah, if that is in fact what they decide to do?
Well, it may not matter. As I know it doesn't matter with respect to Israel. Netanyahu has said, and I've talked to him, I'm going to do this alone if I have to. You know where it matters, Martha, is a signal and the message we're sending the rest of the world that you can't count on the United States, you can't trust the United States, that our allies, right? Our allies And our enemies see this as well. So if our allies and friends see this as a trust issue, if the Saudis say part of this peace deal want to buy military equipment from the United States, how are they going to trust us? And the rest of the world looks at this. Iran looks at this. Yahya Sinwar got a victory by this administration without a shot fired from him. And I think Russia and China are right there looking at this too.
You regularly invoke former President Ronald Reagan. You heard Senator Coons bring up the fact that he paused weapons to Israel as well. You constantly ask yourself, what would Ronald Reagan do? That's what Ronald Reagan did.
Well, I think, look, in this case, to say, look, I'm all for the humanitarian peace here, and that can be done. But I am not for saying what the president said is different. He said, if they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons, period. He didn't say something else. That's what he said. And I have to go by his words because you know what? They're not giving us any information. State Department, this administration have not been transparent. They've been hiding the 8 ball. And that's what he said.
Just quickly, if you can, you heard Tess Ingram. You heard the horrible situation on the ground. Are you comfortable when you see those pictures of children, and estimates are 14,000 children who died? Are you comfortable with that?
No, I'm not at all. I mean, it is heartbreaking. War, as I say, is hell. War is messy. But Israel didn't start this war. Hamas started this war. And Israel's going to finish this war. And until Hamas is eradicated, we can't get to the peaceful solution. And I think that's my biggest concern. But yeah, my heart goes out to that. I saw a video today of Hamas killing their own people, Palestinian children trying to get food out of the trucks.
Okay, we're going to stop it there. Thanks for coming in this morning, Congressman.
Thanks, Martha.